Imagine it is a freezing morning and you start your car, but the temperature gauge immediately shoots up or your engine starts blowing thick black smoke and stumbling as if it is about to die. You plug in your scanner and pull the code P2725, which points to a low voltage input from engine coolant temperature sensor number 2. Now, do not let that number 2 part trip you up. Many modern cars use multiple sensors to monitor the health of the cooling system. This sensor is a thermistor, which is just a fancy way of saying its electrical resistance changes based on how hot the coolant is. When the engine is stone cold, the resistance should be very high, and as things warm up, that resistance drops. The computer sends a steady 5-volt reference signal to the sensor and watches how much of that voltage comes back. If the computer sees a voltage that is way too low, it thinks the engine is screaming hot, even if you just started it. This causes the computer to lean out the fuel mixture and run the cooling fans at full blast, which makes for a terrible driving experience. The most common cause for this code is a direct short to ground in the wiring harness or a sensor that has failed internally. Before you start draining your radiator, grab your diagnostic tool and look at the live data with the key on but the engine off. On a cold engine, the coolant temperature reading should be almost identical to the intake air temperature. If your scanner says the coolant is 260 degrees while the outside air is only 50, you have definitely found your ghost. A great way to test this is to simply unplug the sensor. The reading on your scanner should immediately drop to an extreme cold value like -30 or 40 degrees. If it stays stuck on the hot reading even when unplugged, you have a short in the wiring harness where those 2 tiny wires are touching each other or a metal part of the frame. Inspect the connector very closely for any signs of melted plastic or pins that have vibrated loose over the years. If you find that the 5-volt reference signal is missing entirely, you might have a shared circuit nightmare where another failing sensor on the engine is dragging down the power supply for the whole group. You would need to unplug each sensor one by one until that 5-volt signal returns to find the true culprit. This code might seem minor compared to a blown transmission, but ignoring it can lead to terrible fuel economy and even engine damage if the car cannot properly manage its cooling strategy. So get that multimeter out and verify those connections before your next commute.